responsible for not taking control. In fact, not saying I take no responsibility initially. Anyone who's responsible for that many deaths should not remain as President of the United States of America. We're in a situation where there are 1,000 deaths a day now, 1,000 deaths a day, and there are over 70,000 new cases per day. Compared to what's going on in Europe, as the New England Medical Journal said, they're starting from a very low rate. We're starting from a very high rate. The expectation is we'll have another 200,000 Americans dead between now and the end of the year. If we just wore these masks, the president's own advisors have told him, we could save 100,000 lives. And we're in a circumstance where the president thus far and still has no plan, no comprehensive plan. What I would do is make sure we have everyone encouraged to wear a mask all the time. I would make sure we move in the direction of rapid testing, investing in rapid testing. I would make sure that we set up national standards as to how to open up schools and open up businesses so they can be safe and give them the wherewithal, the financial resources to be able to do that. We're in a situation now where the New England Medical Journal, one of the most serious journals in the whole world, said for the first time ever that the way this president has responded to this crisis has been absolutely tragic. And so, folks, I will take care of this. I will end this. I will make sure we have a plan.
President Trump, I'd like to follow up with you in your comments. You talked about taking a therapeutic. I assume you're referencing Regeneron. You also said a vaccine will be coming within weeks.
Yes.
Is that a guarantee?
Yes, sir.
Guarantee, but
It should be good.
By the end of the year, but I think it has a good chance. There are two companies, I think, within a matter of weeks, and it will be distributed very quickly.
Can you tell us which companies?
Johnson & Johnson is doing
loud
very
as
well.
fuck.
Moderna is doing very well. Pfizer is doing very well, and we have numerous others. Then we also have others that we're working on very closely with other countries, in particular.
All right, let's
Europe.
get into
Let
it.
me follow up with you, and because this is new information, you have said a vaccine is coming soon, within weeks now. Your own officials say it could take well into 2021 at the earliest for enough Americans to get vaccinated. And even then, they say the country will be wearing masks and distancing into 2022. Is your timeline realistic?
No, I think my timeline is going to be more accurate. I don't know that they're counting on the military the way I do, but we have our generals lined up, one in particular, that's the head of logistics, and this is a very easy distribution for him. He's ready to go as soon as we have the vaccine, and we expect to have 100 million vials. As soon as we have the vaccine, he's ready to go.
Vice President Biden, your reaction, and just 40% of Americans say they would definitely agree to take a coronavirus vaccine if it was approved by the government. What steps would you take to give Americans confidence in a vaccine if it were approved?
Make sure it's totally transparent. Have the scientists of the world see it, know it, look at it, go through all the processes. And by the way, this is the same fellow who told you this is going to end by Easter last time. This is the same fellow who told you that, don't worry, we're going to end this by the summer. We're about to go into a dark winter. And he has no clear plan, and there's no prospect that there's going to be a vaccine available for the majority of the American people before the middle of next year.
President Trump, your reaction, he says you have no plan.
I don't think we're going to have a dark winter at all. We're opening up our country. We've learned and studied and understand the disease, which we didn't at the beginning. When I closed and banned China from coming in heavily infected, and then ultimately Europe, but China was in January. Months later, he was saying I was xenophobic. I did it too soon. Now he's saying, oh, I should have, moved quicker. But he didn't move quicker. He was months behind me, many months behind me. And frankly, he ran the H1N1 swine flu, and it was a total disaster.
All right, let's finally get into it. I'm tripping.
It was a total disaster. Had that had this kind of numbers...
Welcome to the stream. You coming by? Welcome to the stream. Welcome to the stream. Welcome to the stream. Welcome to the stream.
But it was a far less lethal disease.
Let me pull up my thing.
Look, his own person who ran that for him, who, as you know, was his chief of staff, said it was catastrophic. It was horrible. We didn't know what we were doing. Now he comes up and he tells us how to do this. Also, everything that he said about the way every single move that he said we should make, that's what we've done. We've done all of it. But he was way behind us.
Vice President Biden,
That boy Joe looking crazy.
My response is he is xenophobic, but not because he shut down access from China. And he did it late after 40 countries had already done that. In addition to that, what he did, he made sure that we had 44 people that were in there in China trying to get to Wuhan to determine what exactly the source was. What did the president say in January? He said, no, he said, he's being transparent. The president of China is being transparent. We owe him a debt of gratitude. We have to thank him. And then what happened was we started talking about using the Defense Act to make sure we go out and get whatever is needed out there to protect people. And again, I go back to this. He had nothing. He did virtually nothing. And then he gets out of the hospital and he talks about don't worry, it's all going to be over soon. Come on.
Talk your
There's
shit.
not another serious
Talk your
scientist
shit.
in the world who thinks it's going to be over soon.
President Trump, your reaction?
Say over soon. I say
Nigga, this is way better than the
to
first
live with it.
debate.
We have no choice. We can't lock ourselves up in a basement like Joe does. He has the ability to lock himself up. I don't know. He's obviously made a lot of money someplace, but he has this thing about
He always attacking this
people
nigga,
can't
bro.
do that. By the way, I, as the president, couldn't do that. I'd love to put myself in the basement or in a beautiful room in the White House and go away for a year and a half until it disappears. I can't do that. And Kirsten, every meeting I had, and I'd meet a lot of families, including Gold Star families and military families. Every meeting I had, and I had to meet them. I had to. It would be horrible to have canceled everything. I said, this is dangerous, and you catch it. And I caught it. I learned a lot. Great doctors, great hospitals, and now I recovered. 99.9 of young people recover. 99% of people recover. We have to recover. We can't close up our nation. We have to open our school, and we can't close up our nation, or you're not going to have a nation.
And of course, the CDC has said young people can get sick with COVID-19 and can pass it. Vice President Biden, I want to talk broadly about strategy, though.
Can I respond to that?
30 seconds, please, and then I have a question.
No, number one, he says that we're learning to live with it. People are learning to die with it.
Facts.
You folks home will have an empty chair at the kitchen table this morning.
Damn.
That man or wife going to bed tonight and reaching over to try to touch their
Talk your shit.
habit where their wife or husband
Talk your shit.
is gone.
Talk your shit.
Learning to live with it. Come on. We're dying with it because he's never said, you said it's dangerous. When's the last time? Is it really dangerous still? Are we dangerous? You tell the people it's dangerous now? What should they do about the danger? And you say, I take no responsibility.
I'm letting him recover.
Excuse me, I take full responsibility.
I mean, I feel like he does it, though.
Came here. It's China's fault. And you know what? It's not Joe's fault that it came here either. It's China's fault. They kept it from going into the rest of China for the most part, but they didn't keep it from coming out to the world, including Europe and ourselves.
Vice President Biden.
Fact is that when we knew
I think the moderator should just let him talk their shit today, bro.
what happened? What did the
I think
president
Trump
say?
needs all this time to
He said,
actually,
"Don't worry.
go
It's
ahead
gonna
and
go away. Be gone by Easter. Don't
try to
worry.
get as many
It'll
voters
go
as he
one
can.
way. Don't worry. Maybe inject bleach. He said he was kidding when he said that, but a lot of people thought it was serious. A whole range of things the president has said. Even today, he thinks we are in control. We're about to lose 200,000 more people.
President Trump.
Look, perhaps
That's a
just
scary
to
ass
finish
number.
this, I was kidding on that, but just to finish this, when I closed, he said I shouldn't have closed. And that went on for months. What Nancy Pelosi said the same thing. She was dancing on the
Turn this bit
streets
up a
in
little bit.
Chinatown in San Francisco. But when I closed, he said, this is a terrible thing. You're xenophobic. I think he called me racist even.
I mean,
And because I was closing
looking
it
at the
to China.
policies that you
Now
do
he says
implement
I
into
should have
the
closed it earlier.
country.
It just, Joe, it doesn't work.
I didn't say either of those things.
You
I didn't say
certainly
sugar
did.
coercion,
You certainly
and
did.
Oh, hold
I
on.
talked about xenophobia in a different context. It wasn't about closing the border to Chinese coming to the United States.
All right, I want to talk
Well,
about
what?
both of your different
I want to get into
strategies
that
to handle
shit.
I thought I shouldn't have closed the border.
Well, let's-
That's
I want them to
obvious.
get into their shit.
Is that? Do you want to respond to that quickly, Vice President
No.
Biden? Okay.
Nigga
Let's talk about
said.
different strategies towards dealing with this. Mr. Vice President, you suggested you would support new shutdowns if
No.
scientists recommended it. What do you say to Americans who are fearful that the cost of shutdowns, the impact on the economy, the higher rates of hunger, depression, domestic and substance abuse outweighs the risk of exposure to the virus?
What I would say is I'm going to shut down the virus, not the country. It's his ineptitude that caused the country to have to shut down. Why businesses have gone under, why schools are closed, why so many people have lost their living, and why
Yeah.
they're concerned. Those other concerns are real. That's why he should have been, instead of in a sand trap at a golf course, he should have been negotiating
Facts.
with Nancy Pelosi
Facts.
and the rest of the Democrats and Republicans about what to do about the acts they were passing for billions of dollars to make sure people had the capacity.
Yep.
You haven't ruled out more shutdowns.
Oh, well, no, I'm not shutting down the name, but there are, look, you need standards. The standard is if you have a reproduction rate in a community that's above a certain level, everybody says, slow up, more social distancing, do not open bars and do not open gymnasiums.
Okay.
Do not open until you get
Okay.
this under control, under more control. But when
Bro,
you do open,
Joe coming in with a game
you
plan.
need to be able to open and have the capacity to do it safely. For example, schools, they need a lot of money to open. They need to deal with ventilation systems. They need to deal with smaller classes, more teachers, more pods.
Yeah.
And he's refused to support that money.
That is, he
Up to
did.
now.
Let's talk about schools. President Trump,
I think we have to respond, if I might.
please, and then I have a follow-up.
Thank you, and I appreciate that.
But I feel like she didn't ask her next question yet either.
But forget about him. His Democrat governors, Cuomo in New York, you look at what's going on in California, you look at Pennsylvania, North Carolina, Democrats all, they're shut down so tight and they're dying. They're dying. And he supports all these people. All he talks about is shutdowns. No, we're not going to shut down, and we have to open our schools. And it's like, as an example, I have a young son. He also tested positive. By the time I spoke to the doctor
I wonder
the
why.
second time, he was fine. It just went away. Young people, I guess it's their immune system.
Let me follow up with you, President Trump. You've demanded schools open in person.
I just feel like he can't rely on the recovery rate. Still, people are dying, so he can't just say, well, 99% is going to recover from it.
After a coronavirus spike, what is your message to parents who worry that sending their children to school will endanger not only their kids but also their teachers and families?
I want to open the schools. The transmittal rate to the teachers is very small, but I want to open the schools. We have to open our country. We're not going to have a country. You can't do this. We can't keep this country closed. This is a massive country with a massive economy. People are losing their jobs. They're committing suicide. There's depression, alcohol, drugs at a level that nobody's ever seen before. There's abuse, tremendous abuse. We have to open our country. You know, I've said it often. The cure cannot be worse than the problem itself. And that's what's happening. And he wants to close down. He'll close down the country.
Let me turn up the
if
desktop
one
out there.
person in our massive bureaucracy says we should close it down.
Vice President Biden, your
Simply
response.
not true. We ought to be able to walk and chew gum at the same time. We ought to be able to safely open, but when they need resources to open, you need to be able to, for example, if you're going to open a business, have social distancing within the business. You need to have, if you have a restaurant, you need to have plexiglass dividers so people cannot infect one another. You need to be in a position where you can take testing rapidly and know whether a person is in fact infected. You need to be able to trace. You need to be able to provide all the resources that are needed to do this. And that is not inconsistent with saying that what we're going to make sure that we open safely. And by the way, all you teachers out there, not that many of you are going to die, so don't worry about it. Come on.
President Trump, let me follow
Because
up with you
look,
quickly.
By the way,
thing
I will say
is, if
this.
you try
you
to-
go and look
more
at what's
testing
happened
is
to
gonna-
New York, it's a ghost town. It's a ghost town. And when you talk about plexiglass, these are restaurants that are dying. These are businesses with no money. Putting up plexiglass is unbelievably expensive, and it's not the answer. I mean, you're going to sit there in a cubicle
He's doing
wrapped
everything
around
in
with
his power to
plastic.
open up the country, bro.
These are
He
businesses
does not
that are
care.
dying, Joe. You can't do that to people. You just can't. Take a look at New York and what's happened to my wonderful city for so many years. I loved it. It was vibrant. It's dying. Everyone's leaving New York.
Take a look at
Vice
what
President
New
Biden.
York has
Do
done
not
in terms
like
of
it's a
turning the curve
pandemic,
down
though.
in
Like,
terms
more
of the
people
number of people
can die
dying.
from
And
this.
I don't look at this in terms of the way he does. Blue states and red states, they're all the United States. And
Facts.
look at the states that are having such a spike in the coronavirus. They're the red states. They're the states in the Midwest. They're the states in the upper Midwest. That's where the
Yeah,
spike
Trump's
is
enemy,
occurring
Ryan Lefort.
significantly. But they're all Americans. They're all Americans. And what we have to do is say, wear these masks, number one. Make sure we get the help that the businesses need that has money's already been passed to do that. It's been out there since the beginning of the summer, and nothing's happened.
President, New York has lost more than
Joe,
40,000
speaking.
people, 11,000 people in nursing homes.
President Trump, what
When you
about
say spike, take a look at what's happening in Pennsylvania, where they've had it closed. Take a look at what's happening with your friend in Michigan, where her husband's the only one allowed to do anything. It's been like a prison. Now, it was
Bro,
just
he
ruled
hates the Michigan
unconstitutional.
governor, bro. Y'all haven't
Take
read
a
up
look
on
at
that
North
story, dog.
Carolina. They're having spikes, and they've been closed, and they're getting killed financially. We can't let that happen, Joe. You can't let that happen. We have to open up. And we understand the disease. We have to protect our seniors. We have to protect our elderly. We have to protect especially our seniors with heart problems and diabetes problems. And we will protect them. We have the best testing in the world by far. That's why we have so many cases.
Let me follow up with you before we move on to our next section. President Trump, this week you called Dr. Anthony Fauci, the nation's best-known infectious disease expert, quote, a disaster. You described him and other medical experts as, quote, idiots. If you're not listening to them, who are you listening to?
I'm listening to all of them, including Anthony. I get along very well with Anthony, but he did say, don't wear masks. He did say, as you know, this is not going to be a problem. I think he's a Democrat, but that's okay. He said this is not going to be a problem. We are not going to have a problem at all. When Joe says that, I said, Anthony Fauci said, and others, and many others, and I'm not knocking him a lot. Nobody knew. Look, nobody knew what this thing was. Nobody knew where it was coming from, what it was. We've learned a lot. But Anthony said, don't wear masks. Now he wants to wear masks. Anthony also said, if you look back, exact words, here's his exact words. This is no problem. This is going to go away soon. So he's allowed to make mistakes. He happens to be a good person.
Vice President Biden, your response quickly, and then we're going to move on to the next section.
My response is that think about what the president knew in January and didn't tell the American people. He was told this was a serious virus that spread in the air, and it was much worse than the flu. He went on record and said to one of your colleagues, recorded, that in fact he knew how dangerous it was, but he didn't want to tell us. He didn't want to tell us because he didn't want us to panic. He didn't want us. Americans don't panic. He panicked. But guess what? In the meantime, we find out in the New York Times the other day that, in fact, his folks went to Wall Street and said this is a really dangerous thing. And a memo out of that meeting, not from his administration, but from some of the brokers, said sell short because we got to get moving. It's a dangerous problem.
Well, this is
I'm going to give you 30 seconds to respond, and then we're going to move on.
I don't know. Somebody went to Wall Street. You're the one that takes all the money from Wall Street. I don't take it. You have raised a lot of money. Tremendous amounts of money.
Really want to talk.
And every time you raise money, deals are made, Joe. I could raise so much more money as president and as somebody that knows most of those people. I could call the heads of Wall Street, the heads of every company in America. I would blow away every record, but I don't want to do that because it puts me in a bad position. And then you bring up Wall Street. You shouldn't be bringing up Wall Street because you're the one that takes the money from Wall Street, not me. I could blow away your records that like you wouldn't believe. We don't need money. We have plenty of money. In fact, we beat Hillary Clinton with a tiny fraction of the money that she was able to.
All right, gentlemen, we're going to move on.
Average contribution, $43.
All right, we're going to move on to our next section, which is national security. And I do want to start with the security of our elections and some breaking news from overnight. Just last night, top intelligence officials confirmed again that both Russia and Iran are working to influence this election. Both countries have obtained U.S. voter registration information, these officials say, and Iran sent intimidating messages to Florida voters. This question goes to you, Mr. Vice President. What would you do to put an end to this threat? You have 2 minutes uninterrupted.
I made it clear, and I ask everyone else to take the pledge. I made it clear that any country, no matter who it is, that interferes in American elections will pay a price. They will pay a price. And it's been overwhelmingly clear this election, I won't even get into the last one, this election, that Russia has been involved, China has been involved to some degree, and now we learn that Iran is involved. They will pay a price if I'm elected. They're interfering with American sovereignty. That's what's going on right now. They're interfering with American sovereignty. And to the best of my knowledge, I don't think the president said anything to Putin about it. I don't think he's stalking them a lot. I don't think he said a word. I don't know why he hadn't said a word to Putin about it. And I don't know what he has recently said, if anything, to the Iranians. My guess is he'd probably be more outspoken with regard to the Iranians. But the point is this, folks. We are in a situation where we have foreign countries trying to interfere in the outcome of our election. His own national security advisor told him that what is happening with his buddy, I will. His buddy, Rudy Giuliani, he's being used as a Russian pawn. He's being fed information that is Russian that is not true. And then what happens? Nothing happens. And then you find out that everything that's going on here about Russia is wanting to make sure that I do not get elected the next president of the United States because they know I know them and they know me. I don't understand why this president is unwilling to take on Putin when he's actually paying bounties to kill American soldiers in Afghanistan, when he's engaged in activities that are trying to destabilize all of NATO. I don't know why he doesn't do it, but it's worth asking the question, why isn't that being done? Any country that interferes with us will, in fact, pay a price because they're affecting our sovereignty.
Facts.
President Trump, same question to you. Let me ask the question. You're going to have 2 minutes to respond. For 2 elections in a row now, there has been substantial interference from foreign adversaries. What would you do in your next term to put an end to this? 2 minutes uninterrupted.
I want to hear this. To the first part, as Joe answered, Joe got $3.5 million from Russia, and it came through Putin because he was very friendly with the former mayor of Moscow, and it was the mayor of Moscow's wife, and you got $3.5 million. Your family got $3.5 million, and someday you're going to have to explain why did you get $3.5. I never got any money from Russia. I don't get money from Russia. Now, about your thing last night, I knew all about that, and through John Ratcliffe, who was fantastic, he said,
why was Russia so in Trump's favor then?
Common to both of them. They both want you to lose because there has been nobody tougher to Russia. Between the sanctions, nobody tougher than me on Russia. Between the sanctions, between all of what I've done with NATO, I've got the NATO countries to put up an extra $130 billion, going to $420 billion a year. That's to guard against Russia. I sold, while he was selling pillows and sheets, I sold tank busters to Ukraine. There has been nobody tougher on Russia than Donald Trump. And I'll tell you, they were so bad. They took over the submarine port. You remember that very well. During your term, during you and Barack Obama, they took over a big part of what should have been Ukraine. You handed it to them, but you were getting a lot of money from Russia. They were paying you a lot of money, and they probably still are. But now, with what came out today, it's even worse. All of the emails, the horrible emails of the kind of money that you were raking in, you and your family. And Joe, you were vice president when some of this was happening. And it should have never happened. And I think you owe an explanation to the American people. Why is it? Somebody just
addressing
had a
the
news
issues that
conference
the United States people need to
who was
hear.
essentially supposed to work with you and your family.
Feel like it's personal
but what he said was damning. And regardless of me, I think you have to clean it up and talk to the American people. Maybe you can do it right now.
Vice President Biden, you may respond.
Oh, he cut off the mic.
And then
That's
I
why
want
they
to
can't
follow
talk
up on the
shit.
election security.
I have not taken a penny from any foreign source ever in my life. We learned that this president paid 50 times the tax in China, has a secret bank account with China, does business in China, and in fact is talking about me taking money. I have not taken a single penny from any country whatsoever, ever. Number one. Number two, this is a president, I have released all of my tax returns, 22 years. Go look at them. 22 years of my tax returns. You have not released a single solitary year of your tax return. What are you hiding? Why are you unwilling? The foreign countries are paying you a lot. Russia's paying you a lot. China's paying you a lot. And your hotels and all your businesses all around the country, all around the world. And China's building a new road to a new a golf course you have overseas. So what's going on here? Why don't release your tax return or stop talking about corruption?
President Trump, your response.
First of all, I called my accountants, underwrote it. I'm going to release them as soon as we can. I want to do it, and it'll show how successful, how great this company is. But much more importantly than that, people were saying $750. I asked them a week ago, I said, what did I pay? They said, sir, you prepaid tens of millions of dollars. I prepaid my tax. Tens over the last number of years. Tens of millions of dollars I prepaid. Because at some point they think it's an estimate. They think I may have to pay tax. So I already prepaid it. Nobody told me that.
Did your accountant
Nobody told you that. Excuse me. And it wasn't written. Whenever they write this, they keep talking about $750, which I think is a filing fee. But let me just tell you, I prepaid millions and millions of dollars in taxes. Number one. Number two, I don't make money from China. You do. I don't make money
Oh,
from
no,
Ukraine.
you. No,
you
you.
do.
Reverse
I
SIM
don't
card.
make money from Russia. You made $3.5 million, Joe, and your son gave you. They even have a statement that we have to give 10% to the big man. You're the big man, I think. I don't know. Maybe you're not, but you're the big man, I think. Your son said we have to give 10% to the big man. Joe, what's that all about? It's terrible.
All right, gentlemen, I want to ask you both some questions
I have to
about all of this,
respond to
but
that.
I'm going to let you both respond very quickly. You just said you spoke to your accountant
Yes.
about potentially releasing your taxes. Did he tell
How
you
does
when
it
you
feel
can
to be a
release them? Do
moderator
you
between
As
have
soon
a
as the
bro?
order-
deadline
That
for
is
when you're
just
going to
hard
release
to
the
I
swallow.
get
American
treated
people?
worse than the Tea Party got treated. Because
you
I have a
don't
lot
have
of
the
people in there,
Tea Party?
deep down in the IRS, they treat me horribly. We made a deal, it was all settled until I decide to run for president. I get treated very
One of the
badly
richest
by the
men
IRS, very unfairly.
in the US, and the
But
IRS
we had a
treats
deal
you
all done.
horribly.
As soon as we're completed with the deal, I want to release it. But I have paid millions and millions of dollars, and it's worse than paying. I paid in advance. It's called prepaying your taxes. I paid in advance.
I want to ask you both about questions regarding your potential foreign entanglements and questions that have been raised to give you both a chance
Some
to
point
talk
about
about this more broadly. Respond very quickly, and then I'll get to my question.
Why did he's been saying this for 4 years? Show us. Just show us. Stop playing around.
That's the plain
You've
thing.
been
Just
saying
show
for
them.
4 years you're going to release your taxes. Nobody knows, Mr. President. What they do know is you're not paying your taxes, or you're paying
What do you
taxes that are
have?
so low. When last time he said what he paid, he said, I only pay that little because I'm smart. I know how to game the system. Come on. Come on, folks.
So
President Trump, and then I want to get to two questions to both of you.
Show us.
I was put through a phony witch hunt for 3 years. It started before I even got elected. They spied on my campaign. No president should ever have to go through what I went through. Let me just say this. Mueller and 18 angry Democrats and FBI agents all over the place spent $48 million. They went through everything I had, including my tax returns, and they found absolutely no collusion and nothing wrong. $48 million. I guarantee you, if I spent $1 million on you, Joe, I could find plenty wrong, because
All
the
right.
kind of things that you've done and the kind of monies that
Well,
your
yeah,
family has
Johnson is
taken.
personal. It's
I
never
mean,
a
your
personal
brother
attack.
made money
What
in
is the-
Iraq,
Let me-
millions of dollars.
Why
Your
is he
other
asking
brother
questions that
made a
I don't
fortune,
know
and
about
it's
this.
all through you, Joe. And they say you get some of it, and you do
I just
live
feel like
very
these
well. You have
questions are built
houses
up to
all over the
attack
place.
each
You
other.
live very well.
All right, gentlemen, let me just ask some questions about all of this broadly. Vice President Biden, there have been questions about the work your son has done in China and for a Ukrainian energy company when you were vice president. In retrospect, was anything about those relationships inappropriate or unethical?
Nothing was unethical. Here's what the deal. With regard to Ukraine, we had this whole question about whether or not, because he was on the board, I later learned of a Burisma, a company, that somehow I had done something wrong. Yet every single solitary person, when he was going through his impeachment, testifying under oath who worked for him, said, I did my job impeccably. I carried out U.S. policy. Not one single solitary thing was out of line. Not a single thing. Number one. Number two, the guy who got in trouble in Ukraine was this guy trying to bribe the Ukrainian government to say something negative about me, which they would not do.
Ain't you that nigga that don't like dark skin women, bro?
Because
Why
it
you in my
never,
stream, dog?
Ever happened. My son has not made money in terms of this thing about, what are you talking about? China. I have not had, the only guy made money from China is this guy. He's the only one. Nobody else has made money from China.
I feel like I heard
Deal with
Let me ask
China
my question
and
to you.
But could I just one thing?
Russia
His
so many
son
times during this stream.
Didn't have a job for a long time. Was sadly no longer in the military service. I won't get
Hey,
into
nigga,
that.
that's facts.
And he didn't have a job. As soon as
As long
he
as they
became
got a lot of
vice
hair, bro, I'm
president,
straight with 'em.
Burisma, not the best local,
White woman,
not
though?
the best reputation in the world. I hear they paid him $183,000 a month. Listen to this, 183, and they gave him a $3 million upfront payment.
All right.
And he had no energy.
I'm going to let the vice president
That's
respond to that quickly, and then I need to get to a
dishonest.
question to you. Very
No
quickly,
basis for
Vice-
that. Everybody investigated that. No one said anything he did was wrong in Ukraine.
Okay, President Trump, this is for you. Since you took office, you've never divested from your business. You've personally promoted your properties abroad. A report this week, which was referenced, does indicate that your company has a bank account in China. So how can voters know that you don't have have any foreign conflicts of interest?
I have many bank accounts, and they're all listed, and they're all over the place. I mean, I was a businessman doing business. The bank account you're referring to, which is everybody knows about it, it's listed. The bank account was in 2013. That's when it was. It was opened it was closed in 2015, I believe. And then I decided, because I was thinking about doing a deal in China, like millions of other people. I was thinking about it, and I decided I'm not going to do it. Didn't like it. I decided not to do it. Had an account open, and I closed it.
Okay.
Excuse me. And then, unlike him, where he's vice president and he does business, I then decided to run for president after that. That was before. So I closed it before I even ran for president, let alone became president. Big difference. He is the vice president of the United States, and his son, his brother, and his other brother are getting rich. They're like a vacuum cleaner. They're sucking up money every place you go.
I do want to ask you, Vice President Biden, about China. Let's talk about China more broadly. There have, of course, President Trump has said that they should pay for not being fully transparent in regards to the coronavirus. If you were president, would you make China pay? And please be specific. What would that look like?
What I'd make China do is play by the international rules, not like he has done. He has caused the deficit of China to go up, not down, with China, up, not down. We are making sure that in order to do business in China, you have to give all your intellectual property. You have to have a partner in China.
Watch the first debate, dog.
We would not do that at all.
I told you everything.
Number two, we're in a situation where China would have to play by the rules internationally as well. When I met with Xi, when I was still vice president, he said we're setting up air identification zones in the South China Sea. You can't fly through them.
Was so fucking
I said,
hard
we're going
to
to fly
set up
through
the
them.
first
We just
time.
flew B-52, B-1 bombers through it. We're not going to pay attention. They have to play by the rules. And what's he do? He embraces guys like the thugs like in North Korea and the Chinese president and Putin and others, and he pokes his finger in the eye of all of our friends, all of our allies. We make up only 25%.
I mean, these questions are setting up for them like just to
of the world's
attack
economy.
each other.
We need to be having the rest of our friends with us saying to China, these are the rules. You play by them or you're going to pay the price for not paying by them economically. That's the way I will run it. And that's what we did in upholding steel tariffs and a range of other things when we were president and vice president.
All right, let's talk about North Korea.
Excuse me, no, I have to respond to that.
Okay, very quickly, and then we're going to move on to North Korea.
$1.5 billion from China to manage after spending 10 minutes in office and being in Air Force Two. Number one. Number two, there's a very strong email talking about your family wanting to make $10 million a year for introductions.
President Trump, on China policy, though, what specifically are you going to do? What specifically are you going to do to make China pay? You've said you're going to make them pay.
China is paying. They're paying billions and billions of dollars. I just gave $28 billion.
New sanctions?
I just gave $28 billion to our farmers.
Taxpayers' money.
It's what?
Taxpayers' money.
Stop going on.
China. China paid $28 billion, and you know what they did to pay it, Joe? They devalued their currency, and they also paid up. And you know who got the money? Our farmers, our great farmers, because they were targeted. You never charged them anything. Also, I charged them 25% on dumped steel because they were killing our steel industry. We were not going to have a steel industry.
Okay.
And now we have a steel industry.
Okay, Vice President Biden, your response, please.
Our response is, look, this isn't about, there's a reason why he's bringing up all this malarkey. There's a reason for it.
Malarkey.
He doesn't want to talk about the substantive issues. It's not about his family and my family. It's about your family. And your family's hurting badly. If you're making less than, if you're a middle-class family, you're getting hurt badly right now. You're sitting at the kitchen table this morning deciding, well, we can't get new tires, they're bald because we have to wait another month or so. Or are we going to be able to pay the mortgage? Or who's going to tell her she can't go back to community college? They're the decisions you're making. And the middle-class families like I grew up in Scranton and Claymont, they're in trouble. We should be talking about your families, but that's the last thing he wants to talk about.
I want to talk about North Korea. I do want to turn to 10 seconds, Mr. President.
That's
10
a
seconds.
typical political statement. Let's get off this China thing, and then he looks, the family, around the table, everything. Just a typical politician when I see that.
Let's talk
You're
about
one too.
Okay,
That's why I got elected.
Let's
get off the subject of China. Let's talk around sitting around the table. Come on, Joe, you can do better.
We're going to talk about North Korea now. President Trump, you've met with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un 3 times. You've talked about your beautiful letters with him. You've touted the fact that there hasn't been a war or a long-range missile test. And yet North Korea recently rolled out its biggest ever intercontinental ballistic missile and continues to develop its nuclear arsenal. Do you see that as a betrayal of the relationship you forged? Just 30 seconds here because we need to get on to the next.
So when I met with Barack Obama, we sat in the White House right at the beginning, had a great conversation. It was supposed to be 15 minutes, and it was well over an hour. He said the biggest problem we have with North Korea. He indicated we will be in a war with North Korea. Guess what? It would be a nuclear war, and he does have plenty of nuclear capability. In the meantime, I have a very good relationship with him. Different kind of a guy, but he probably thinks the same thing about me. We have a different kind of a relationship.
Bro,
we have a very good relationship, and there's no war. And you know, about 2 months ago, he broke into a certain area. They said, oh, there's going to be trouble. I said, no, they're not, because he's not going to do that. And I was right. Look, instead of being in a war where millions of people, Seoul, you know, is 25 miles away, millions and millions, 32 million people in Seoul, millions of people would be dead right now.
President
We
Trump,
don't have
that's
a war,
30
and I have a
seconds.
good
Thank you.
relationship.
Vice President
Bro, I know
Biden, to
you- I
you,
know we
North
was
Korea
playing like a
conducted
dog
4
fight, but this ain't
nuclear
no
tests
dog
under
fight.
the
I mean,
Obama administration.
they're
Why do you
personally
think you would
attacking
be
each other,
able
but it's
to
not
rein
just-
in this persistent threat right
Because
now?
I'd make it clear, which we were making clear to China, they had to be part of the deal, because here's I made it clear as a spokesperson of the administration when I went to China, that they said, why are you moving your missile defense up so close? Why are you moving more forces here? Why are you continuing to do military maneuvers with South Korea? I said, because North Korea is a problem, and we're going to continue to do it so we can control them. We're going to make sure we can control them and make sure they cannot hurt us. And so if you want to do something about it, step up and help. If not, it's going to continue. What has he done? He's legitimized North Korea. He's talked about his good buddy who's a thug, and he talks about how we're better off. And they have much more capable missiles, able to reach U.S. territory much more easily than ever did before.
Let me follow up with you, Vice President Biden. You've said you wouldn't meet with Kim Jong-un without preconditions. Are there any conditions under which you would meet with him?
On the condition that he would agree that he would be drawing down his nuclear capacity to get that the Korean Peninsula should be nuclear-free zone.
All right, let's move on to American families.
They tried
Very
to meet
quickly,
with
10
him.
seconds,
They
President.
tried to meet with him. He wouldn't do it. He didn't like Obama. He didn't like him. He wouldn't do it.
Okay, I gotta give him a
They
chance to
tried.
respond to that
He
before we
wouldn't
move
do
on.
it. And that's okay. You know what? North Korea, we're not in a war. We have a good relationship.
That's a diverse
You know,
woman, too. I ain't
people
gonna hold
listen, having a good relationship
Trump,
with
we have-
leaders of other
we
countries
have a
is a
lot of
good thing.
we have a lot of questions to get
Yes,
to.
not
Your
like
response.
And we had
Exactly.
a good relationship
Exactly.
with
What?
Hitler before
What
he, in
time?
fact,
Like, what?
invaded Europe. The rest of Europe. Come on.
Yeah,
The
bro.
reason
Hold
he
on,
would
bro. I'm
not
finna
meet with President Obama
I
is
forgot to
because
subscribe.
President
Y'all
Obama
subscribe to
said,
YouTube
we're
right
gonna
now,
talk about
man.
denuclearization.
Got you, nigga.
We're not going to legitimize you. We're going to continue to put stronger and stronger sanctions on you.
I didn't even know that was
why
your
he wouldn't
channel.
meet with us.
All right,
And it
let's
didn't
move
happen.
on. Let's
Excuse
move on
me.
and talk
He
about
left
American
me a
families.
mess.
You know, I'm gonna do
President
it
Trump,
after
okay,
this.
we
It's kind of
need
hard
to
for me to
move
do
on.
right now.
mess.
But welcome to the stream,
North
dog.
Korea was
No
a
way we
mess.
watching nigga
We
debate,
need to move
nigga.
on to the
Remember
Watching the
first
debate.
two or
Other
3 months?
questions tonight,
There was a very
President Trump.
dangerous
Hey, Midas, you
period
gon-
in my first 3 months before we sort of worked things
You
out a little
change channels on
bit.
me?
There was a very they left
How's it
us
wrong
a
now and
mess,
that-
and
what?
Obama would be, I think, the first to say it was the single biggest problem he thought that our country.
Okay, let's move on to American
Hey,
families
hey, Mario, you gonna let that
and the
nigga James
economy.
steal your
One
fucking
of the
art like
issues
that,
that's
nigga?
most
I saw that
important
shit.
to them is healthcare, as you both know.
Damn, bro, you
Today,
let a
there
nigga
was
outshine you like
key
that,
vote on
bro?
new Supreme Court
Couldn't
Justice
be me.
Amy Coney
You
Barrett.
know, I be drawing
and
for shit.
healthcare is at the center of her confirmation fight. Over 20 million Americans get their health insurance through the Affordable
That nigga
Care
Jay- I
Act.
didn't know that
It's
nigga
headed
James
to the
could draw like
Supreme
that.
Court, and your administration, Mr. President, is advocating for the court to overturn it. If the Supreme Court does overturn that law, those 20 million Americans could lose their health insurance almost overnight. So what would you do if those people have their health insurance taken away? You have 2 minutes uninterrupted.
First of all, I've already done something that
question.
nobody thought was possible. Through the legislature, I terminated the individual mandate. That is the worst part of Obamacare, as we call it. The individual mandate
Simple
where you have
shit,
to
bro.
pay a fortune
bro,
for the
like, I've
privilege
seen that, bro.
of not having to pay for bad health insurance.
Like,
I terminated
you always
it's
been,
gone.
bro, that nigga's been making
Now
some
it's in
fire-ass
court
drawings, and we just
because
thought it was you
Obamacare
this whole
is no
time.
good.
I can't believe
But
it.
then I made a decision, run it as well as you can to my people, great people. Run it as well as you can. I could have gone the other route and made everybody very unhappy. They ran it. Premiums are down. Everything's down. Here's the problem. No matter how well you run it, it's no good. What we'd like to do is terminate it. We have the individual mandate done.
Wow,
I
I'm
don't know that it's
streaming,
going
like,
to
I
work.
can't
If
even
we
talk to
don't
you right
win, we will have to run it, and we'll have Obamacare, but
I'm
it'll
call
be
you after,
better
though.
run. But it no longer is Obamacare, because without the individual mandate, it's much different. Pre-existing
When this
conditions
debate go off for
will
like 10,
always stay.
15?
What I would like to do is a much better health care, much better.
All right.
Will always
Kisses.
protect people with pre-existing. So I'd like to terminate Obamacare, come up with a brand new, beautiful health care. The Democrats will do it because there'll be tremendous pressure on them, and we might even have the House by that time. And I think we're going to win the House, okay? You'll see, but I think we're going to win the House.
All right.
Come up
Back
with
on
a
my
better
bullshit.
health
I'm sorry,
care,
I had to see that.
always protecting people with pre-existing conditions. And one thing very important, we have 180 million people out there that have great private health care,
You can say
far
you spilled
more
the
than we're
beans.
talking about with Obamacare. Joe Biden is going to terminate all of those policies. These are people that love their health care, people that have been successful, middle-income people, been successful. They have 180 million plans, 180 million people, families. Under what he wants to do, which will basically be socialized medicine, he won't even have a choice.
Bro, so social.
They want to terminate
Bro, I
180
think
million
everybody should have
plans.
access to
We have
this.
done an
I ain't gonna hold
incredible
y'all.
job on health care, and we're going to do even better.
No.
Okay,
Let me
Vice
respond.
President Biden, yes, this is for you. Your health care plan calls for building on Obamacare. So my question is, what is your plan if the law is ruled unconstitutional by the Supreme Court? You have 2 minutes uninterrupted.
Good
What I'm going to
question.
do is pass Obamacare with a public option. Become Biden care. The
Bro,
public
can we
option
focus
is an
on the
option
debate,
that
dog?
says
Like, why
that
are you
if you in
talking?
fact do not have the wherewithal
Now that
to
I
be,
got
if you
taste
qualify
of
for Medicaid and you do not have the wherewithal in your state to get Medicaid, you automatically are enrolled, providing competition for insurance companies. That's what's going to happen. Secondly, we're going to make sure we reduce the
I need to
premiums
let
and
it
reduce
be.
drug prices by making sure that there's competition
This has
that
been
doesn't
about a
exist
personal
now by
attack. It's
allowing
not going
the
off like the first
Medicare
debate at
to
all, but, you know,
negotiate drug
This
prices
is more for, like,
with
the
the
more
insurance
respectful,
companies.
I guess you could
Thirdly,
say. I know, I was
the
wondering
idea
some
that
insults.
I
There's
want to
some insults,
eliminate
but it's not
private
like
insurance,
that.
the reason why I had such a fight with 20 candidates for the nomination was I support private insurance. That's why I didn't, not one single person with private insurance would lose their
I mean, the only
insurance
question
under
about
my
it is, like,
plan,
if it's
nor
access for
did they
all, like,
under
would you-
Obamacare.
would
They
you
did
allow,
not lose
like,
their
homeless
insurance
people to get it
unless they
too?
chose they wanted to go to something else. Lastly, we're going to make sure we're in a situation
I guess
that
they
we
deserve it, too.
actually protect pre-existing. There's
Yeah,
no
look more
way he
into
can
it.
protect pre-existing conditions.
I was
None,
playing this
zero.
for that.
You can't do it in the ether. He's been talking about this for a long time. He's never come up with a plan. I guess we're going to get the pre-existing condition plan the same time we get the infrastructure plan that
I
we
just
waited
never
since
expected that from
17,
you, you know
18,
what I'm saying?
19, and 20. The fact, I still have a few more minutes. I know you're getting anxious. The fact is that he's already cost the American people because of his terrible handling of the COVID virus and the economic spillover. 10 million people have lost their private insurance. And he wants to take away 22 million more people who have it under Obamacare and
It's
over
right now.
110 million people with pre-existing conditions.
some
And
more.
all the people from COVID are going to have pre-existing conditions. What are they going to do?
I have a follow-up for you, Vice President Biden. It relates to something that President Trump
What?
said. He's accusing you of wanting socialized medicine. What do you say to people who have
I don't have
concerns
to
that your
disagree.
health
I
care
wanna
plan,
see
which
what it-
includes a government insurance option, takes the country
I'm
one
happy to see
step
what
closer
socialism
to a
can do for
healthcare
some
system
shit. I
run
don't know.
entirely by the government?
Capitalism,
Say it's
socialism,
ridiculous.
big.
It's like saying
That's a
that,
big
you
ass
know,
video I have in
we're,
store to make,
the
but you know,
idea
it's just
that the fact
you
that
gotta
there's a public option that people can
look into
choose,
it.
that makes it a socialist plan. Look, the difference between the president, I think healthcare is not a privilege, it's a right. Everyone should have the right to have affordable health care. And I am very proud of my plan. It's gotten endorsed by
Like,
all
I
the major
agree with
labor
that, what he's
unions
saying
as
right now. I
well
think
as,
healthcare for all
as
bases,
well
I
as a
don't know. You
whole
gotta
range
look
of
into
other
it
people
more.
who in fact
I
are
gotta see, like,
concerned in the
specific
medical
details
field.
of the
This
flag
is
to make an
something that's
opinion
going to
on
save
that.
people's lives, and this is going to give some people an opportunity to have health care for their children. How many of you home are worried and rolling around in bed tonight wondering what in God's name you're going to do if you get sick? Because you've lost your home insurance, your health insurance, your company's gone under. We have to provide health insurance for people at an affordable rate, and that's what I do.
President Trump,
Excuse me, he was
your
there
response.
for 47 years.
She like, you gonna let a nigga respond? You just cut her
He was
off.
vice president for 8 years, and it's not like it was 25 years ago. It was 3 3/4. It was just a little while ago, right? Less than 4 years ago. He didn't do anything.
I'm not mistaken,
He
I think
didn't do it.
Sweden is
he
a
wants
fucking
socialized
socialist
medicine,
country,
and it's
though. I
not
don't
that
think
he
about
wants it. His vice president. I mean,
Wait, what country
she
you talking
is
about?
More liberal than Bernie Sanders and wants it even more. Bernie Sanders wants it. The Democrats want it. You're going to
Nah,
have
whole country
socialized
going
medicine.
bankrupt, dog.
Just like
Ain't
you
we in
want to
debt,
hold
though?
fracking. We're not going
Are
to
we
have
basically
fracking. We're gonna
bankrupt?
stop
No, I mean, I
fracking.
don't
We're
know.
going to stop fracking. Then he goes to Pennsylvania after he gets a nomination where he got very lucky to get it. And he goes to Pennsylvania and he says, oh, we're going to have fracking. And you never asked that question. And by the way, so far, I respect very much the way you're handling this, I have to say.
By the way,
but somebody should ask the question.
You can ask-
He goes for a year.
Exactly. She handled this way better than fucking.
We have a number of topics we're
No,
going
but
to get
that's a
to.
big- that's a big question.
We're going to get to. We're going to get to.
It's the same thing with socialized
I have to
medicine.
respond.
Vice President, your response, please.
My response is people deserve to have affordable health care.
I know, yeah, exactly, bro. That's what I remember hearing.
And the Biden care proposal will, in fact, provide for that affordable health care, lower premiums. What we're going to do is going to cost some money. It's going to cost over $750 billion.
Yeah,
over 10 years
I
to
feel
do
you,
it.
Jalen. It's just,
And
I don't know.
lower
I mean,
premiums,
I
you can
want
buy
healthcare
into
for all, but
better
yeah,
plans,
there has to be
cheaper
very,
plans,
very
lower
specific
premiums,
details
deal
going
with
into it, because
unexpected
yeah, our taxes can go up like
billing, and
a
have
bunch.
drug prices
And
drop
like 50 Cent
significantly.
nigga, I don't want to be like that. Like a nigga said, he don't want to be 20 Cent nigga. You know how much money that nigga make?
So when
Very
he
quickly,
says,
then I want to talk
when
about
he
what's
says
happening on
public
Capitol
option,
Hill.
he's talking about socialized medicine, and when he and healthcare. When he talks about a public option, he's talking about destroying your Medicare.
Yeah, you can't just implement that shit and just be like,
destroying your
damn.
Social Security, and this whole
Everybody
country
can
will
do
come
that
down.
shit.
You know,
Yeah.
Bernie Sanders tried it in his state. He tried it in his state. His governor was a very liberal governor. They wanted to make it work.
Okay,
It-
let's
it was
let Vice President
impossible
Biden
to work.
respond.
It doesn't
Vice
work.
President
He's
Biden,
a very
your
confused
response.
guy. He thinks he's running against somebody else. He's running against Joe Biden.
Oh,
I
nigga.
beat all those
Joe
other people
fucking
because
Biden,
I
nigga.
disagreed
Say
with
it
them.
fucking name with
Joe
your chest,
Biden
nigga.
he's running against. And the idea
Mm,
that we're in
say
a
it with your
situation
chest,
that they're
nigga.
going to destroy Medicare, this is the guy that the actuary at Medicare said, if in fact, at Social Security, if in fact he continues to withhold his plan to withhold
see
the
that.
tax on
I can see
Social
that.
Security, Social Security
Yeah, I don't
will
have
be
a,
bankrupt in 2023 with no way to make up for it. This is the guy
How I
who's
feel
tried to
about that, I don't know.
cut Medicare. So I don't. I mean, the idea.
I don't. It's.
that
I don't want. Yeah,
should
because it
remain
can't. If
on
he gets
Social
elected,
Security and Medicare,
I don't want it to
come
be a
on.
fast switch to
He tried to get
socialism.
rid of-
You know what I'm saying? I want to improve on the
Years ago,
capitalism
years ago.
and maybe
Go
switch to
back and
socialism.
look at
It
the
was a good
records.
idea.
He tried to hurt Social Security years ago.
All
One
right,
thing-
let's move
Yeah.
on.
This
I'm
is the
going to move
guy
on.
that
Let
when they
me,
announced
Mr. President, I have
last
to move
week,
on to the next question,
They say
or
the
else
stock
we're not
market
going to
will
have time
boom
to talk about it.
if I'm elected. If he's elected, the stock market will crash.
Okay, let's
Biggest
move on to the
analysts
next
say-
question.
Hey, this
Very
nigga
quickly.
dropped so bad.
The idea that the stock market is
Ah!
is his only measure of what's
on.
happening.
Orange
Where
man.
I come from is
Orange
Granite
man
Farm,
bad.
that people don't live off of the stock market. Just in the last three years during this crisis, the billionaires in this country made
Orange
according
man
to
bad.
the Wall Street $700 billion more dollars. $700 billion more dollars.
Yeah, that's
Because
yeah. I remember
that's his
that.
only measure.
Nigga, we learned about that last depression in
What happens to
social
the
studies,
ordinary
nigga.
people out
Oh
there?
man, they went over that
What
shit in
happens to them?
detail.
Let's talk about what's happening on Capitol Hill. We're going to
Kristen,
move on. Gentlemen.
401ks are through the roof.
We're gonna move on.
Stock are through the roof.
Nigga sent them
It
Eagles
doesn't
like he's
come
finna
from
leave or some
Scranton.
shit. Damn,
That's
bro.
like one of the-
You
he
out,
lived
though.
there for
I'll
a
catch
short
you.
period
We're
of
gonna-
time before
okay,
he even knew
we're
it.
gonna move on
and
to
he
the next
left.
question.
And the people of Pennsylvania
Let me
will
move
show
on
you
to my
that.
next question,
They
gentlemen.
understand.
As of tonight, more than 12 million people are out of work, and as of tonight, 8 million more Americans have fallen into poverty, and more families are going hungry every day. Those hit hardest are women and people of color. They see Washington fighting over a relief bill. Mr. President, why haven't you been able to get them the help they need? 30 seconds here.
Because
Ooh,
Nancy
good
Pelosi
question.
doesn't want to approve it. I do.
But you're the president.
I do, but I still have to get. Unfortunately, that's one of the reasons I think we're going to take over the House because of her. Nancy Pelosi doesn't want to approve anything because she'd love to have some victories on a date called November 3rd. Nancy Pelosi does not want to approve it. We are ready, willing, and able to do something. Don't forget, we've already approved 3 plans, and it's gone through, including the Democrats, in all fairness. This one she doesn't want. It's near the election because she thinks it helps her politically. I think it hurts her politically.
All right, Mr. Vice President.
You know, the Republican leader in
Why is that like the moderator finna yell, dog?
Pass it. He will not be able to pass it. He does not have Republican votes. Why isn't he talking to his Republican friends?
Let me follow up with you, Vice President.
we made a
Biden,
deal, the
because
Republicans
let me
would
ask
pass it.
Vice President Biden a question. You are the leader of the Democratic Party. Why
I wish
have
you
you
would talk
not
to me like
pushed the
that.
Democrats to get a deal for the American people?
Well, I have, and they have pushed it. Look, they
She needs to talk
passed
to me
this
like
act
that.
all the way back in the beginning of the
Talk to me
summer.
like that, all she wants.
This is like it's not new. It's been out there. This HEROES Act has been sitting there. And look at what's happening. When I was in charge of the Recovery Act with $800 billion, I was able to get $145 billion to local communities that have to balance their budgets and states that have to balance their budgets, and then have to fire firefighters, teachers, first responders, law enforcement officers, so they can keep their cities and counties running. He will not support that. They have not done a thing for them. And Mitch McConnell said, let them go bankrupt. Let them go bankrupt. Come on. What's the matter with
The
these
bill that was
guys?
passed in the House was a bailout
Oh,
of
shit.
badly run, high crime, Democrat, all run by Democrats, cities and states.
Sorry,
it was
I
a
had to
way
see
of
that.
getting a
Hey.
lot of money, billions and billions of dollars to
Oh.
these states. It was also a way of getting a lot of money from our people's pockets to people that come into our country illegally. We were going to take care of everything for them. And what that does, and I'd love to do that, I'd love to help them, but what that does, everybody all over the world will start pouring into our country. We can't do it. This was a way of taking care of them. This was a way of spending on things that had nothing to do with COVID, as per your question. But it was really a big bailout for badly run Democrat cities and states.
All right, I
Wait,
want
if
to.
I get elected, I'm running as a proud Democrat, but I'm going to be an American president. I don't see red states and blue states.
Abso-fucking-lutely,
What I see is
nigga.
American, United States.
Abso-fucking-lutely.
And folks,
She wouldn't even
every single
be able
state
to-
out there finds themselves in trouble. They're going to start laying off, whether they're red or blue. Cops, firefighters, first responders, because teachers, because they have to
Nigga,
balance
Mario, you
their
just saying you
budget.
dig,
And the
like you dig
founders
what,
were
nigga?
smart.
Like you talking
They
about
allowed
what
the
we
federal
talking about, or
government
just
deficit spend to compensate for the United States of
you dig.
America.
I
Like,
want
you
to
dig
talk
what?
about the minimum wage, gentlemen. Mr. Vice President, we are talking a lot about struggling small businesses.
Hey,
but we-
business owners
Oh, okay,
these
okay,
days.
okay.
Do you think
You really
this is
think
the
about
right
this, but this
time to
is
ask
just
them
the
to raise
beginning,
minimum
dog. Like we
wage
finna
and
go
support
up on
a
some shit,
$15
bro. Like
minimum
I
wage?
do.
niggas
because
is
I
not
think
rooting
one of
for
the
us
things
now,
we're gonna have
bro.
to do
But
is
if you
we're
really
gonna
think
have
about
to
it, but
bail
once we
them
up on
out
some shit,
too.
I don't want, bro.
We should be bailing them out now. Those
It's
small
really just the
businesses.
beginning.
You got
You know
one
what
in
I'm
6
saying?
of them going under.
For all
They're not
three of
gonna
us,
be
if
able to
y'all,
make it
there's more
back.
people in here
They
than
passed
myself.
a
But like, this is really just the
package
beginning for us,
that
bro. And then
allows
once we
us
up
to
on
be
some
able
shit,
to
bro,
go PPP. Money
we all gonna be
supposed to
fly
go
as
to help
hell,
them do
nigga.
everything from
Mario might be drawn
organize
for some
how they can
fucking
deal with their
selling some
businesses
paintings for
being
like
open
a K out here,
safely,
nigga.
schools,
Jalen
how
that.
they can make classrooms
Gonna be on
smaller,
YouTube and
how they can
shit,
hire
on
more
podcast
teachers, how they
shit.
can put ventilation systems in.
Niggas ain't gonna be able to handle that nigga. They gonna try to cancel that nigga probably, but he probably can't get canceled.
Schools need the help.
He ain't gonna
This-
care.
Because these guys will not help them. Is not giving them any of the money.
We are going to move on to
One thing
immigration,
very
but I
quickly,
want
he
to
said
get
we
your
have to help our
reaction.
small businesses by raising the minimum wage. That's not helping. I think it should be a state option. Alabama is different than New York. New York is different.
I'm on my
from
political
Vermont.
shit.
Every state
Jalen
is
on his
different.
funny
It
gaming
should be a
shit.
state
Mario on his
option.
drama
You said
shit.
very
We have to
recently-
help. It's very important. We have to help our small businesses.
You
How
said-
are
We
you
gotta keep- we
helping
gotta
the
be
small
consistent,
businesses
and we gonna
when
be
you're
fine.
forcing wages? What's going to happen, and what's been proven to happen, is when you do that, these small businesses fire.
Damn,
many
can we get a
of their
15-minute break?
You said very
Not sure,
recently you
by
would
the way.
consider raising the federal
Niggas been
minimum
standing up.
wage
These
to
old ass niggas been standing up for an hour.
You said recently you would consider raising the federal minimum wage to
What
$15
I
an hour. Is
really
that
like,
still the case?
and I would consider it to an extent, but
In a
what I
second
really like,
administration?
in a second administration, but not to a level that's going to put all these businesses out of business. It should be a state option. Look, I've lived in different places. I know different places. They're all different. Some places, $15 is not so bad. In other places, other states, $15 would be
Okay, President Trump,
ruinous.
thank you. Quick
No
response,
one
Vice
should
President
work
Biden.
2 jobs, 1 job, be below poverty. People are making $6, $7, $8 an hour. These first responders we all clap for as they come down the street because they've allowed us to make it. What's happening? They deserve a minimum wage of $15.
Yep.
Anything below that puts you below the poverty level.
Facts,
there is
nigga.
no evidence that when you raise the minimum wage, businesses go out of business. That is simply not true.
I think the minimum wage should be raised, nigga. Like, nigga, we all need to make money.
Now, gentlemen, and we're going to talk about families within
My
this
Walmart,
context.
bro.
Mr.
When I'm getting paid at Walmart, it's only $11.50, but it's finna go up to 15 or some shit. I'm finna get paid as much as these old niggas is.
Reversed your zero tolerance policy, but the United States can't locate the parents of more than 500 children. So how will these families ever be reunited?
Children are brought here.
Hey,
by
Jay, I think,
coyotes and
Jay, don't you work at Walmart too, or you work at
cartels? And they're brought here.
like a warehouse?
They used to use them to get into
If
our
he's still in the
country.
stream, that is.
We now have
I don't know if he's
as
still here or
strong a
not.
border as we've ever had. We're over 400 miles of brand new wall. You see the numbers, and we let people in, but they have to come in legally, and they come in through
But
merit.
how will you
But
reunite
let me
these
just tell
kids
you,
with their
Let me just
families,
tell you,
Mr.
they
President?
built cages. You know, they used to say, "I built the cages." And
But
then
Mari,
they
you
had a
still in here,
picture of a
bro.
certain
What,
newspaper. And it was a picture of these horrible cages, and they said, "Look at these cages."
Mari, what channel should I subscribe to,
President
nigga?
Trump built
Is it
them. And then it was
the
determined they were built.
is the Mari the artist, nigga, or is it
That was
Modest?
him.
I don't know
have
which
a
one.
plan to reunite the kids
Yes,
with
we're
their
working on
families?
it we're trying very hard. But a lot of these kids come out without the parents. They come over through cartels and through coyotes and through gangs.
Vice President Biden, let me bring you into this
All right,
conversation.
all right.
Quick response and then
I'm
another
subscribed
question to you.
These 500 plus kids
Yeah, I see what you're
came
talking about,
with
John.
parents. They separated them out
Nigga, how much you get paid?
to make it a disincentive
Yeah, I
to
know.
come to begin
Yeah,
with.
inflation ain't good.
They real tough. We're really strong. And guess what? They cannot. It's not coyotes didn't bring them over. Their parents were with them. They got separated from their
I
parents.
want to fuck a bitch from New
And
York.
it makes us a
All right,
laughing stock and
13?
violates every
Okay.
notion of who
Those-
we are
You don't work
as a
at
nation.
I know you work
Let
in a
me ask you
warehouse,
a
bro. I don't
question.
know.
Kristen, they did it. We changed the policy.
Your response
they
to
did
that?
it.
We
changed.
did not
They built the
separate
cages.
they-
Who built the cages, Joe?
Let's talk about what
Who
we're
built the
talking about.
cages,
Let's
Joe?
talk about what we're
That's
talking
what I've
about.
been
What
hearing,
happened?
though.
Parents were ripped, their kids were ripped from their arms and separated.
Like, how? When did those cages get
Now
built? Like, didn't they get built during the Obama administration?
500 of sets of those parents, and those kids are alone.
Nigga said Carter's
Nowhere to
baby
go.
clothes. Like,
Nowhere to go. It's
hey,
criminal.
nigga, 13. Oh, you gotta do
It's
what you gotta
criminal.
do.
Let me ask
Kristen,
you
I will
about
say this.
immigration.
They went
10
down. We
seconds, and
brought
then I need to ask
reporters,
you.
everything. They are so well taken care of.
Check
They're
it,
in
check, nigga.
facilities that were so clean.
But some of
and
them
have gotten
haven't been
such good-
reunited
But
with
just
their
ask
families.
one question. Who built
Yeah,
the
when
cages?
did the cages
I'd love you
get
to ask
built?
of that. Who built the cages?
Let me ask about your immigration policy, Mr. Vice President. The Obama administration
shit.
did fail to
That
deliver
boy on some weed
immigration
thought,
reform,
bro.
which had been a
Wasn't
key
that-
promise during
was
the
the case built
administration. It
2012,
also
2013?
presided over record deportations
gotta
as
look
well
into
as
that.
family detentions at the border before changing course. So why should voters trust you with an immigration overhaul now?
Wait,
Because
okay,
we made a mistake. It took
That's
too long to get it right. Took too long to get it right. I'll be president of the United States, not vice president of the United States.
Facts, nigga.
And the fact is, I've made it very clear. Within 100 days, I'm going to send to the United States Congress a pathway.
Hey,
to
niggas, y'all, if y'all
citizenship
ain't,
for
y'all ain't registered to vote in this
women
fucking
and
channel yet, go
undocumented
fucking
people.
vote. Go
And
vote
all
right
of
ways.
those
The
so-called
deadline's over.
dreamers, those DACA kids, they're going to be immediately certified again to be able to stay
Yeah,
in this
Jalen,
country.
Jalen, look up when the
Citizenship. The idea that they
When
are
the cages-
being sent
when were
up
the
by this
cages
guy
built?
and they want to do that is they go into a country they've never seen before. I can imagine you're 5 years old, your parents are taking you across the Rio Grande River and it's illegal. And you say, "Oh no, Mom, leave me here. I'm not going to go with you." They've been here. Many of them are model citizens. Over 20,000 of them are first responders out there taking care of people during this crisis. We owe them. We owe them.
President,
Kristen,
don't
he
your
had
reaction.
8 years to do what he said he was going to do. And I've changed without having a specific. We got rid of catch and release. We got rid of a lot of horrible things that they put in and that they lived with. But he had 8 years he was vice president. He did nothing except build cages to keep children in.
Vice President Biden, your response.
The catch and release, you know what he's talking about there? If in fact you had a family.
That's
came
what I'm
across and they were
thinking,
arrested,
bro. The cages were
they,
built
in
during the
fact, were given
Obama
a date to show up
administration,
for
bro.
a hearing.
Like,
They were released. And guess what? They showed up
that was a good one.
for a hearing. And this is the first president in the history of the United States of America that's
I'll give that
anybody
to them.
seeking asylum.
That's good. That's a good
has
counter.
to do it in another
One word to
country.
build cages built.
That's never
It was
happened
built
before
during
in
your
America.
administration.
That's never happened before in America. You come to the United States and you make your case. That
Yeah,
I
you're just
seek
wrong,
asylum based on the following premise: why I deserve it under American law. They're sitting in squalor on the other side of the river.
President Trump, your response,
So
30
important.
seconds, and then we'll move
It just shows that he has no understanding.
Bro, these niggas need I know these niggas
of
need a
the
break,
laws.
bro. They mouth not
Catch and
dry.
release is a disaster. A murderer would come in, a rapist would come in, a very bad person would come in. We would take their name. We have to release them into our country. And then you say they come back. Less than 1%
Ooh, let
of
me
the
get my
people
fucking
come
chart.
back. We have to
RP
send
needs-
ICE
Oh,
out
shit.
and Border Patrol out to
Oh,
find them.
fuck.
We
I
would
can't
say,
even
come
dig.
back in 2 years, 3 years.
How
We're
the-
going to give you a court case. You need Perry Mason.
Bro, my phone
We're going to give
dies.
you a
That's
court
just
case.
crazy
When you
as
say
fuck.
they come back, they don't come back, Joe.
Dude.
They never come back. Only the really, I hate to say this, but those with the lowest IQ, they might come back.
Okay,
But they're
President Trump,
very,
let's
very
give
few.
Vice President Biden a chance to
Okay,
respond,
that was
and
a
then
bad
we'll
one.
move
He
on to
shouldn't
the
have
next
said that.
The
section.
law, Joe.
Vice President Biden, your response.
Know the law. What he's telling you is simply not true.
Well, check it out. They don't come back.
Check it out.
All right, let's move
But
on
we don't have
to
to
the
worry
next
about it because they
section.
terminated it, so we don't have to worry about
Let's
it anymore.
move on to the next
And you have
section.
525 kids not knowing where in God's name they're going to be and lost their parents.
Go ahead.
All right, let's talk about our next section,
lowest
which is
IQ.
race
There
in
you go.
America. And I want to talk about
This
the way
nigga right
Black
here.
and brown Americans experience race in this country.
Okay,
Part
who?
of that experience is something called the talk. It happens regardless of class and income. Parents who feel they have no choice but to prepare their children for the chance that they could be targeted, including by the police,
Okay.
for no reason other than the color of their skin.
Okay.
Mr. Vice President, in the next 2 minutes, I want you to speak directly to these families.
Joe,
Do you
talk- okay,
understand
Joe, but
why
it's your time right here, dog.
fear for their children?
It's your time.
I do. You know, my daughter is a social worker, and she's written a lot about this. She's has a graduate degree from the University of Pennsylvania in social work. And you know, one of the reasons why I ended up working on the east side of Wilmington, Delaware, which is 90% African American, was to learn more about what was
I think
going
Joe's
on.
gonna
What I
do
did-
good.
never
I
had
don't
to
know what
tell my
Trump's answer is
daughter,
gonna be to this, bro.
if she's pulled over, make sure she puts for a traffic stop, put both hands on top of the wheel and don't reach for the glove box because someone may shoot you. But a black parent, no matter how wealthy or how
Okay,
poor
look
they
at it,
are,
bro.
has to teach their child when you're walking down the street, don't have a hoodie on when you go across the street. Making sure that you, in fact, if you get pulled over, just yes sir, no sir, hands on top of the wheel.
Bro, come
Because
on,
you
okay, bro.
are, in fact, the victim, whether you're a person making
Eddie's, bro.
child of a $300,000 a year person or someone who's on food stamps. The fact of the matter is there is institutional racism in America. And we have always said, we've never lived up to it, that we hold these truths to be self-evident. All men and women are created equal. But guess what? We have never, ever lived up to it, but we've always
If my phone
constantly
dies, bro, I don't know
been
how I'ma
moving
see y'all
the
comments
needle
no more,
further
bro.
and further to inclusion,
I don't got no double
not
computer shit.
exclusion.
I don't got no
This is the
setup.
first president to come along and says that's the end of that. We're not going to do that anymore. We have to provide for economic opportunity, better education, better health care, better access to schooling, better access to opportunity to
Come on,
borrow
never felt
money
this
to
before.
start businesses.
Oh, man.
All the things we can do, and I've laid out a clear plan as to how to do those things. Just to give people a shot. It's about accumulating the ability to have wealth as well as it is to be free from violence.
President Trump, same question to you, and let me remind you of the question. I would like you to speak directly to these families. Do you
Yeah,
understand
do not, okay,
why these
let's see if he
parents fear for
doesn't
their
attack
children?
Joe during this
Yes, I
question.
do. And again, he's been in government 47 years. He never did a thing.
Bro,
except in
he
1994,
said
when he
talk
did
to the
such
families. He's
harm
going
to the
after
black
Joe.
community.
Like, bro,
And
talk,
then
bro.
and he called them super predators. And he said that. He said it, super predators. And they kept never.
This moderator
Now,
literally said, okay, talk to
1994,
these people.
Your crime bill, the super predators.
Well, that nigga Joe, you know,
Nobody has
he's
done more
not,
for the
he
black
called them predators.
community than
Like,
Donald Trump.
bro,
And if you look,
he can't
with
go
the
5 minutes
exception
without attacking
of
this nigga.
Abraham
He can't go
Lincoln,
5 seconds. I
possible
mean,
exception, but the exception of Abraham Lincoln, nobody has done what I've done. Criminal justice reform, Obama and Joe didn't do it. I don't even think they tried because they had no chance at doing it. They might have wanted to do it, but if you had to see the arms I had to twist to get that done, it was not a pretty picture, and everybody knows it, including some very liberal people that cried in my office. They cried in the Oval Office. 2 weeks later, they're out saying, gee, we have to defeat him. Criminal justice reform.
That's about jail. That's his whole thing at this point. Joe will attempt to answer the question, it's good or it's bad, he's in the middle. This nigga Trump will.
People don't talk about it.
Well, Joe, he's not really up to the competition. Like, he's just not there fully. Like, he called him, he did this, he did that. And I'm just like, bro, answer the question.
After 3 years
Just
of coming to the
focused
office,
on the
I love
question
some of
instead
those
of
guys.
your
They were great.
opponent.
They came into the office and they said, I said, what are you doing? After 3 years, I said, why do you keep coming back? Because we have no funding. I said, you don't have to come back every year. We have to come back because President Obama would never give them long-term funding, and I did. 10-year long-term funding, and I gave them more money than they asked for because they said, I think you need more. And I said, the only bad part about this is I may never see you again because I got very friendly with them, and they like me and I like them. But I saved historically black colleges and universities.
Okay, and we're going to
Tell
talk
that
about
nigga
both
pull
of
the
your
JRs.
records, but your response to that, Vice
My
Chairman.
response to that is I never, ever said what he accused me of saying. The fact of the matter is, in 2000, though,
This nigga is not
after
J.R.
the crime
Smith.
bill
Chill
had
out,
been
bro.
in
not
the
Danny
law for a
Green, bro.
while, this is the guy who said
He's like
the
a.
problem with the crime bill, there's not enough people in jail.
Calcool?
There's not enough people in jail. And go on my website, get
like
the
a-
quote, the date when he said it. Not enough people. He talked
KCP?
about marauding gangs, young gangs, and the people who are going to maraud our cities. This is the guy who in the Central Park five innocent black kids, he continued to push for making sure that they got the death penalty. None of them were guilty of the crimes they were
That's
suggested.
true.
Look, and talk about granted, he did in fact let 20 people, he commuted 20 people sentences.
Bro, watching that film made me hate
Commuted
white
over
people for
1,000
like
people sentences. Over 1,000. The very law he's
Like,
talking about
a
is
good
a
amount
law
of
that,
time.
in fact,
Like, I said, like a week.
initiated by Barack
Bro,
Obama.
them niggas did
And
them niggas
secondly,
dirty.
We're in a situation here where the federal prison system was reduced by 38,000 people under our administration. And one of these things we should be doing, there should be no minimum mandatories in the law. That's why I'm offering $20 billion to states to change their state laws to eliminate minimum mandatories and set up drug courts. No one should be going to jail because they have a drug problem.
Facts.
They should be going to rehabilitation, not
Facts.
to jail. We should fundamentally change the system.
Nigga
and that's
caught
what
with
I'm
weed,
gonna do.
go to
Why
rehabilitation.
didn't he do it 4
Still do
years
weed
ago?
afterwards.
Why didn't you do that 4 years ago, even less than that? Why didn't you do it? You were
not-
vice president. You keep talking about all these things you're going to do, and
I don't
you're
think
going
he
to do
knows,
this.
bro.
But you were there just a short time ago, and you guys did nothing.
We did.
You know, Joe, I ran because of you. I ran because of Barack Obama, because you did a poor job. If I thought you did a good job, I would have never run. I would have never run. I ran because of you. I'm looking at you now. You're a politician. I ran because of you.
Remember in 2016, this nigga said he's gonna run for.
And then I do have
Everybody thought that shit was a
I'll tell
joke,
you
bro.
what,
Until he actually won
I
that
hope he does
shit.
look at me because what's happening here is, you know who I am, you know who he is, you know his character, you know my character, you know our reputations for honor and telling the truth. I am anxious to have this race. I am anxious to see this take place. The character of the country is on the ballot. Our character is on the ballot. Look at us closely.
Let me
Hey,
ask
Jill, you got a dual
you
screen or you got a?
respond, and then we're
This
gonna have
stuff
follow-up
is true about Russia, Ukraine, China.
Or you just
other
got
countries,
one screen.
Iraq. If this is true, then he's a corrupt politician.
All right.
So don't give me the
I'm
stuff
expecting you
about
to
how
say
you're
those
this
things.
innocent baby. Joe, they're calling you a corrupt politician.
Nobody-
Take
President
the
Trump, I
laptop
want to
from
stay
hell.
on the issue of race. We're talking
Damn,
about
nigga, you got
Laptop
one.
from hell.
President Trump, we're
Nobody-
talking about race right now, and I do want to stay
Shit,
on
this
the
shit
issue
one
of
screen
race.
shit hard. I ain't gonna hold you.
I have to
You've
respond to that.
Okay.
50 former
Okay.
national intelligence folks
Okay.
who said that what he's accusing me of is a Russian plant. They have said that this has all the five former heads of the CIA, both parties say what he's saying is a bunch of garbage. Nobody believes it except his,
Get that
and his
nigga.
good friend Rudy Giuliani.
You mean the
Get that
laptop is
fuck.
now another Russia hoax? You
That's
got it.
exactly what.
Is this
that's
where you're
exactly
Oh,
what.
oh,
This is
hold
where
on.
he's going.
Shades of the first debate.
laptop Is Russia,
Yeah.
Gentlemen,
Russia?
I want to stay on the issue of race.
You
okay?
have to be kidding. Here we
Mr.
go again
President,
with Russia.
We're going to continue on the issue
Russia.
of race, Mr. President,
believe
you've
that one.
described the Black Lives Matter movement as a symbol
Oh.
of hate.
Oh.
You've shared a video of a
Hold
man
on.
chanting white power to millions of your supporters.
Oh.
You've said that black professional athletes exercising their First Amendment rights should be fired. What do you say to Americans who say that kind of language from a president is contributing to a climate of hate and racial strife?
The Proud Boys.
The first time I ever heard of Black Lives Matter, they were chanting pigs in a blanket, talking about police. Pigs, talking about our police. Pigs in a blanket, fry them like bacon. I said, that's a horrible thing. And they were marching down the street. And that was my first glimpse of Black Lives Matter. I thought it was a terrible thing. As far as my relationships with all people, I think I have great relationships with all people. I am the least racist person in this room.
What do you say to Americans
Whoa!
who are concerned by that?
No! I want to say
I
that.
got criminal justice reform done and prison reform and opportunity zones. I took care of black colleges and universities.
It's literally a diverse bit,
Know
like
what to
right in
say.
front of you.
They can
He's
say
the least
anything.
racist.
I mean, they can say anything. It makes me sad because I am
Well, this
the
nigga Trump
least
is fuck you,
racist
bro. This
person.
nigga
I
is a
can't even see the
fool,
audience
bro.
because it's so dark.
This nigga
I
is
don't care who's in the audience. I'm the least racist person in this
Bro,
room.
that is
Vice
one
President
good
Biden, let
tribute
me
I'll
ask
give you
you
to Trump. This
very
nigga is
quickly, and
funny
then I
as
have a follow-up
fuck.
question for you.
Abraham Lincoln here is one of the most racist presidents we've had in modern history. He pours fuel on every single racist fire. Every
Like,
single
yeah, I remember
one.
when back
Started
in the
off his
first
campaign
podcast when
coming
Jalen
down
said
the
this shit,
escalator
he
saying
he
he's getting rid of
implies,
those
like he just
Mexican
implies. He doesn't say
rapists.
things literally,
He's
and that's what like
banned
Republicans
Muslims
do. They're
because
like,
they're
as long as he doesn't
Muslims.
say it literally,
He's
it's not
moved
true.
around and made
I just think he just
everything
implies
worse
a
across
lot,
the
bro.
board. He says to them about
If you
the
don't,
poor
any
boys.
sane
Last
person
time
can
we
look
were
through the
on
lines and be
stage
like,
here, he
okay,
said,
yeah,
I
that was
told
kind
him
of
to
racist,
stand
bro. That was
down
racist as
and
fuck.
stand
But
right.
any
Come on.
conservative
This
dude
guy is a
look at
dog
the brand
whistle
and just be
big as
like,
a
well,
football.
you know, he's not racist.
President Trump, I'm
He
gonna
didn't.
give
He
you
hasn't
10
said it
seconds to
literally,
respond,
so.
and then I have a follow-up.
He made a reference to Abraham Lincoln.
Like,
Where did
what?
that
Why
come
would he
from?
say
I
it
mean,
literally?
said
You don't get
Abraham
fucking.
Lincoln.
Where did
He'll
that?
lose. Stop being
I
president.
said not since Abraham Lincoln has anybody done what I've done for the black community.
And I'm
I didn't
saying-
say I'm Abraham Lincoln. I said not since Abraham Lincoln has anybody done what I've done for the black community. Now, you have done nothing other than the crime bill, which put
Oh, God.
tens of thousands of black men, mostly in jail.
All right,
True.
let me-
And you know
let me
what?
a- let me
They
ask
remember
Vice
it because
President
if you
Biden
look
a
at what's
question.
happening with the voting right now,
He just, he
Let me
can't,
ask
bro.
Vice President Biden.
I just feel like Trump, bro. Like he,
Take a
bro.
look at
I
what's
don't know.
happening out there.
Vice President Biden, let me give you a chance to respond within
He
this
just
context.
implies a
Crime
lot,
bills
bro.
that
He
you
literally,
supported
you know,
in
he
the
can't
80s
say
and
it.
90s
Oh, he loves to stop.
contributed
He
to the
obviously
incarceration
get
of tens of
fucking.
thousands
What's it
of
called
young
when you
black
being
men
president?
who had small amounts of drugs in their possession. They are
In
sons,
peace, you
they
get
are
peace.
brothers, their
You literally
fathers,
said
their
it all
uncles,
right, but he just
whose families
implies
are
a
still
lot.
to this day, some of them suffering
Y'all look
the
through the lines,
consequences.
bro.
So
You
speak
can't
to
just look
those
at it
families.
as it
Why
is.
should
Look
they
through the
vote for you?
lines.
One of the things is that in the 80s, we passed 100%, all 100 senators voted for it, a bill on drugs and how to deal with drugs. It was a mistake. I've been trying to change the since then, particularly the portion on cocaine. That's why I've been arguing that, in fact, we should not send anyone to jail for a pure
I can't
drug
wait till the school
offense.
shit over so I
They
can
should
start
be
streaming
going
more,
into
bro.
treatment across the board. That's what we should be spending money on. That's why I set up
Whoa,
drug courts, which are never funded by our
facts.
Republican friends. They should not be going to jail for a drug or an alcohol problem.
Oh,
They
my
should
phone
be going
died.
into
Fuck.
Treatment. That's
Hey,
what
niggas, I
we've
can't
been
even see y'all
trying to
comments
do.
no more,
That's
bro.
what I'm
I
going
can't
to
see y'all
get
comments no
done,
more. I can't see y'all
because
comments no
think
more.
The American people have now seen that, in fact, it was a mistake to pass those laws relating to drugs. But they were not in the crime bill.
But
Okay,
why
so-
didn't he get it done?
Oh,
See,
fuck,
it's
I don't know
all
how to see y'all
talk,
comments
no
no more.
action with these politicians.
All right.
Why didn't he get it done? That's what I'm going to do when I become president.
This might be kinda bad,
you
but-
were vice president along with Obama as your president, your leader, for 8 years. Why didn't you get it done? You had 8 years to get it done.
Pop out
now
chat.
you're saying you're going to
Ooh,
get it done.
watch this shit.
because you're all talk and no action, Jim.
We got a lot of it done. We released 38,000
Watch this shit, niggas.
38,000 prisoners.
Oh,
left
fuck.
from the-
You got
Oh, fuck.
nothing
Oh,
done.
fuck. Oh, fuck.
38,000 prisoners were released
Watch
from
this shit.
federal prison. There were over 1,000 people who were given
Oh.
clemency. In fact, we're the ones that put in the legislation
Too
saying
far with the shit.
we could look at pattern and practice of police departments and what they were doing. How they were
I just had a good
conducting
idea.
themselves. I
Watch
could
this
go
shit.
on, but we began the process.
Nigga.
We began the process. We lost an election.
fuck.
That's why I'm running to win back that election and change his terrible policy.
I just asked one question. Why didn't you do it in the 8 years, a short time ago?
Big brain shit, nigga.
You do it? You just said, I'm going to do that. I'm going to do this. You put tens of thousands of mostly black young men in prison. Now
But
my
phone literally died. I can't even see my face no more, bro.
You had 8 years with Obama. You know why, Joe? Because you're all talk and no action.
All right, Vice President Biden, and then we're going to move on to the next section.
We had a Republican Congress. That's the answer.
Well, you got to talk them into it, Joe.
All right.
You got to talk them into it.
We're going to move on to our next section.
Like I did with
pure substance. What you mean, like?
I had to talk Democrats into it.
Nigga, like fucking like cocaine, nigga, or like heroin, or like this weed.
You both have very different visions on climate change. President Trump, you say that environmental regulations have hurt jobs in the energy sector. Vice President Biden, you have said you see addressing climate change as an opportunity.
I know this settle look ugly as fuck, but I can't see the chat otherwise.
Climate change and support job growth at the same time. Starting with you, President Trump, you have 2 minutes uninterrupted.
So we have the Trillion Trees program. We have so many different programs. I do love the environment, but what I want is the cleanest,
what you said, bro, he might be in classes
the cleanest air. We have the best, lowest number in carbon emissions, which is a big standard
top
that
class
I
can make
notice
the most,
Obama
can
goes
make
with
the
all
most
the time.
money.
Not Joe. I haven't heard Joe use the term because I'm not sure he knows what it represents or means, but I have heard Obama use it. And we have the best carbon emission numbers that we've had in 35 years under this administration. We are working so well with industry, but here's what we can't do. Look at China, how filthy it is. Look at Russia. Look at India. It's filthy. The air is filthy. The Paris Accord, I took us out because we were going to have to spend trillions of dollars, and we were treated very unfairly. When they put us in there, they did us a great disservice. They were going to take away our businesses. I will not sacrifice tens of millions of jobs, thousands and thousands of companies because of the Paris Accord. It was so unfair. China doesn't kick in until 2030. Russia goes back to a low standard, and we kicked in right away. It would have destroyed our businesses. So, you ready? We have done an incredible job environmentally. We have the cleanest air, the cleanest water, and the best carbon emission standards that we've seen in many, many years.
Vice President Biden.
And we haven't destroyed our industries.
Vice President Biden, 2 minutes to you.
I don't know about that, big dog. That's he's taking it a little too far with that.
Global warming is an existential threat to humanity. We have a moral obligation to deal with it. And we're told by all the leading scientists in the world we don't have much time. We're going to pass the point of no return within the next 8 to 10 years.
And again here, bro. Appreciate
4 more
it.
years of this man eliminating
exactly, bro. Like you can't just say all pure substances should be legal and then just leave it right there. Like hell no. Like what you mean by that, big dog?
Limited emissions will put us in a position where we're going to be in real trouble. Here's where we have a great opportunity. I was able to get.
I mean, climate change is a serious problem, but it's like you know what I'm saying. It's like it's kind of a boring topic, but it's serious stuff.
To support my climate plan. Because what it does, it will create millions of new good-paying jobs. We're going to invest in, for example, 500,000, 50,000.
Yeah, like the main thing to take from this is making
Earth highways, so that
making
we can
Earth cleaner
and getting more jobs. In the meantime, China is doing that. We're going to be in a position where we're going to see to it that we're going to take 4 million existing buildings and 2 million existing homes and retrofit them so they don't leak as much energy, saving hundreds of millions of barrels of oil in the process and creating significant number of jobs. And by the way, the whole idea of what this is all going to do, it's going to create millions of jobs and it's going to clean the environment. Our health and our jobs are at stake. That's what's happening. And what right now, by the way, Wall Street firms indicated that my plan my plan will in fact create 18.6 million jobs, 7 million more than his. This is from Wall Street. And I'll create $1 trillion more in economic growth than his proposal does. Not on climate, just on the economy.
President Trump,
He came out and said very strongly $6,500 will be taken away from families under his plan.
Oh, I could put y'all
His
niggas
plan
as
is an
moderators right
economic
now.
disaster.
Oh,
If
shit.
you look at what he wants to do, if you look at his plan,
Nothing
his
to do with
environmental
climate.
plan, you know who developed it? AOC
Okay.
plus 3. They know nothing about the climate. I mean, she's got a good line of stuff, but she knows nothing about the climate. And they're all hopping through hoops for AOC plus 3. Look, their real plan costs $100 trillion.
make-
If we had the best year in the history of our country for 100 years, we would not even come close to a number like that. When he says buildings, they want to take buildings down because they want to make bigger windows into smaller windows. As far as they're concerned, if you had no window, it would be a lovely thing. This is the craziest plan that anybody has ever seen. And this wasn't done by smart people. This wasn't done by anybody. Frankly, I don't even know how it can be good politically. They want to spend $100 trillion.
Damn, when does
That's
this
their
debate
real
end,
number.
though?
He's trying to say it was 6. It's $100 trillion.
I thought end at
They wanna
10:15.
knock down buildings
Damn
and
near
build new
10:30.
buildings with little, tiny, small windows. I mean, and many other things.
Okay.
And many other things.
Let me have
Okay,
the Vice
okay.
President
It
respond,
is
and we're running out of
crazy.
time, and we have a lot
And
more
you'll
questions to
destroy
get
our
to.
country.
So let's hear from the Vice President. I have a number more
I
questions.
don't know where he comes
This
from.
nigga, y'all heard this nigga dude, Trump
Where
did
he comes
say
up with these
a
numbers.
vaccine announcement was coming, right?
$100 trillion.
I don't know if I'm gonna take that
Give me
big,
a
dog.
break.
I still gotta make my
This
podcast on that
plan
shit,
was-
but I don't know if I'm
this
gonna take that
plan is
bitch.
endorsed by every major environmental group and every labor group. Labor, because they know the future lies. The future lies in us being able to breathe, and they know there are good jobs in getting us there. And by the way, the fastest growing industry in America is the solar energy and wind. He thinks wind causes
Please don't
cancer,
pull it, Joe. He
windmills.
can't pull a
It's
Joe
the
right now.
fastest growing jobs, and they pay good prevailing wages.
He's finna pull a
45,
Sleepy
50
Joe, bro.
bucks
I
an
don't
hour.
need him to pull that right now.
We can grow and we can be cleaner if we go the route I'm proposing.
President Trump,
Excuse me.
please
We are
respond, and then I have some
We are
follow-ups.
energy independent for the first time. We don't need all of these countries that we had to fight war over because we needed their energy. We are energy independent. I know more about wind than you do. It's extremely expensive. Kills all the birds. It's very intermittent. It's got a lot of problems, and they happen to make the windmills in both Germany and China. And the fumes coming up, if you're a believer in carbon emission, the fumes coming up to make these massive windmills is more than anything that we're talking about with natural
Damn,
gas,
niggas ain't
which is
talking
very
about
clean.
shit.
One
Niggas
other
ain't
thing.
talking.
Find me a
Solar.
scientist that said that.
I love solar, but solar doesn't quite have it yet. It's not powerful yet to really run our big, beautiful factories.
I wonder how Twitter
that
is
we
reacting
need
to the show right now. I know that
compete
first
with the
debate,
world.
everybody was going crazy.
False.
It's all a pipe dream. But you know what we'll do? We're going to have the greatest economy in the world. But if you want to kill the
All right.
economy, get rid of your oil industry. You want, and what about fracking?
All right,
Now-
let me,
They talking, man, they
let me
just-
allow Vice President Biden to respond.
never said I oppose fracking.
You said it on tape.
I did show the tape. Put it on your website.
I'll put it on.
Put it on the website. The fact of the matter is
showed
he's
it last-
flat lying.
Would you
Flat-
rule out banning fracking?
I do rule out banning fracking because the answer we need other industries to transition to get to ultimately a complete zero emissions by 2025. What I will do with fracking over
Yeah,
time is
the
make
fatigue
sure
is starting
that
to
we
set
can
in for Joe, bro.
capture the emissions from the fracking, capture the emissions from gas. We can do that, and we can do that by investing money in doing it. But it's a transition to that.
I have one more question in this pod, and then
Excuse
we
me,
have.
he was against fracking. He said it. I will show that to you tomorrow. I am against fracking. Until he got the nomination, went to Pennsylvania, then he said, but you know what, Pennsylvania? He'll be against it very soon because his party is totally against it.
Fracking on federal land, I said no fracking
You said
and or oil on
didn't say
federal
Let
land.
me ask this
I
final
did.
question in this section, and then I want to move on to our final section.
Mm.
President Trump, people of color are much more likely to live near oil refineries and chemical plants. In Texas, there are families who worry the plants near them are making them sick. Your administration has rolled back regulations on these kinds of facilities. Why should these families give you another 4 years in office?
The families that we're talking about are employed heavily, and they are making a lot of money, more money than they've ever made. If you look at the kind of numbers that we produce for
Some niggas
Hispanic
are worried
or
about
Black
being
or Asian,
sick, and
it's
they
9
make
times
enough
greater
money,
the
so
percentage gain
we should
than it was
continue
under
being
in
sick.
3 years than it was under 8 years of the two of them. to put it nicely. 9 times more. Now, somebody lives, I have not heard the numbers or the statistics that you're saying, but they're making a tremendous amount of money.
They make enough money,
we
so
saved it. And I saved
they should
it
continue
again
being
a number of
sick.
months
As long
ago
as they
when oil was crashing
make enough money,
because
right?
of the pandemic. We saved it. We got, say what you want about relationship, we got Saudi Arabia, Mexico, and Russia to cut back way back.
I don't think
saved our
we
oil
will live.
industry,
I don't know.
and now it's very vibrant again.
All
And
right.
everybody has very
I ain't gonna say
inexpensive
that
gas.
without enough
President
evidence.
Biden, your response, and then we're going to have a final question for both of you.
My response
What time?
is that those people live on what they call fence lines. He doesn't understand this. They live near chemical plants that, in fact, pollute, chemical plants and oil plants and refineries that pollute. I used to live near that when I was growing up in
watch this
Claremont,
nigga say-
Delaware. And there are more oil refineries in
All right,
Marcassuck and the
bet.
Delaware River than there is any place, including in Houston at the time. When my mom get in the car and when there was first frost to drive me to school, turn in the windshield wiper, there'd be oil slick in the window. That's why so many people in my state were dying and getting cancer. The fact is, those frontline communities, it doesn't matter what you're paying them, it matters how you keep them safe.
bet.
What do you do? And you impose restrictions on the pollutions the pollutants coming out of those fence line communities.
Okay, I have one final
Fine.
question.
Close down the oil industry?
It falls.
Would you close down the oil
By the way, I
industry?
would transition from the oil industry, yes.
Oh,
I would
that's a big
transition.
statement.
It is a big statement.
That's a big
because
statement.
I would stop
Why would you do that?
because the oil
See, that's a
industry-
good moderator. Like, they say some shit like that. You gotta let them explain their
That's the deal,
shit.
But you
That's a
can't
big
do that.
statement.
Well, if you let me finish the statement, because it has to be replaced by renewable energy over time. And I'd stop giving to the oil industry, I'd stop giving them federal subsidies. He won't give federal subsidies to the gas, excuse me, to the solar and wind.
Yeah.
Why are we giving it to the oil industry?
We actually do
All right.
to solar and wind.
We have
That's
one
maybe the
final
1 to
biggest
2 a.m.
statement in terms of business. That's the biggest statement.
Okay,
Because
we have
basically
one
what he's
final
saying
question.
is he
Yeah,
is
delete
going
what,
to
bro?
destroy the oil industry. Will you remember that, Texas? Will you
Okay.
remember that, Pennsylvania, Oklahoma?
Vice President Biden, let me give you 10 seconds to respond, and then
Ohio.
I have to get to the final question. Vice President Biden.
He takes everything out of context, but the point is, look, we have to move toward a net zero emissions. The first place to do that by the year 2035 is in energy production, by 2050 totally.
All right. One
Is he
final
gonna get
question
China to
both
do
of you.
it?
No, we're finished with
Is
this.
he
We
going
have
to
to
get
move on
China
to
to
our
do it?
final question. We have to
I'm
move
going
on
to
to our final
rejoin Paris
question.
Accord and make China abide by what they agreed to.
All right,
That'll
this
cost you
is
$1
about
trillion.
leadership, gentlemen. And this first question does go to you, President Trump. Imagine this is your inauguration day.
nigga.
What will you say in your address
You
to,
fucking
Americans who did not vote for you? You'll each have 1 minute, starting with you.
I ain't
have to
leaving you,
make our
nigga.
country totally successful as it was prior to the plague coming in from China.
You said what you
Now
said,
We're rebuilding
nigga.
it, and we're doing record numbers, 11.4 million jobs in a short period of time, etc. But I will tell you, go
Oh,
back.
shit. I thought
Before
it was
the
submitted.
plague came in, just before, I was getting calls from people that were not.
Bro, I wish that shit
people
would have
would
came
call
through,
me.
bro. I
They
was, bro.
wanted to get together.
This what
We
y'all,
have the best
this what y'all favorite YouTuber saying, bro.
unemployment numbers in the history of our country.
Is that nigga that make them post on
Hispanic,
Instagram talking about?
women, Asian, people with diplomas, with no diplomas, MIT graduates, number one in the class. Everybody had the best numbers. And you know what? The other side wanted to get together. They wanted to unify. Success is going to bring us together. We are on the road to success. But I'm cutting taxes, and he wants to raise everybody's taxes. And he wants to put new regulations on everything. He will kill it. If he gets in, you will have a depression, the likes of which you've never seen. Your 401ks will go to hell, and it'll be a very, very sad day for this country.
All right. Vice President Biden, same question to you. What will you say during your inaugural address to Americans who did not vote for you?
I will say,
I can't believe you said that.
I'm an American president. I represent all of you, whether you voted for me or against me. And I'm going to make sure that you're represented. I'm going to give you hope. We're going to move. We're going to choose science over fiction. We're going to choose hope over fear. We're going to choose to move forward because we have
that shit,
enormous
bro.
opportunities,
You can say that all you want, bro.
enormous
I can't read that
opportunities
shit.
to make things better. We can grow this economy. We can deal with the systemic racism. At the same time, we can make sure that our economy is.
I mean, I just feel like Twitter is saying that shit, bro. We see we put Twitter on a pedestal when we really shouldn't, bro. Like niggas, what they be saying on Twitter do not say that shit in real life.
As I said at the beginning, what is on the
Okay, well, you
ballot
said
here
that.
is the
Okay, you said
character of
that.
this country. Decency, honor, respect, treating people with dignity, making sure that everyone has an
Most
even
of
chance.
people say on
And
Twitter,
I'm going
though,
to make
bro.
sure you get that. You haven't been getting it the last 4 years.
Facts.
All right, I want to thank you both for a very robust hour and a half, a fantastic debate. Really appreciate it.
That was good. Okay, I like that. I like that shit. I like that shit. I like that shit. I like that shit.
Thank you to Belmont University for hosting us tonight, and most importantly,
I like that shit. I like that debate. I like that
thank you
debate.
to those watching tonight. Election Day is November
Way better than the first
3rd.
one.
Don't forget to vote.
November 3rd.
Thank you, everyone, and have a
Nigga, that's
great
like 2-3
night.
weeks now.
And there you have it, the second presidential debate, Donald Trump and Joe Biden. The fact
I don't give a
checkers
fuck about these niggas. Whatever they talking about, nigga. I
be
don't
up
give a fuck about what they talking about.
late tonight.
Anyway, let me put that on. Oh God, okay, final thoughts about that before I end the stream on some shit. This debate was way better. They actually got to talk about what they wanted to talk about. It was a way better moderator too, in my opinion, because every time they wanted to explain the topic, she actually let them by like 10 seconds. She gave them like 10 seconds, 20 seconds. You know what I'm saying? Also, she's a woman. You know what I'm saying? You know, she's a bad, cute ass lady. But anyways, yeah, it was way better debate. I think the fatigue was setting in the last moments because he's Joe, like he's old as fuck. So the fatigue was setting in for him, but I still think he said some points clearly. He's very hit or miss. Like he either answers the question perfectly or doesn't answer it at all. I mean, like, or answer it bad. And Trump, I just feel like Trump's basically his motivation. Every time he answered the question today, it was more like an attack on Joe Biden instead of like answering the question fully. Definitely like what he was saying about the black talking to black families when the lady asked him the question to talk about the black families and getting targeted. He just attacked Joe. She personally said talk to those people, but she went straight to attacking Joe, and I'm like, that's not going to get you any voters in the Demfield. You know what I'm saying? That's not a good key. That's not a good That's not a good plan, I should say. Not a good plan coming into this debate. We're going to continue to attack him because Republicans and conservatives already hate Joe. You know what I'm saying? They already hate this nigga. So just keeping the personally attacking him is not going to do anything for him. They already hate the guy. So like, it's not a good situation. I think he was trying to. Trump's plan should have been to go in and try to attract them voters, and he didn't do that, in my opinion. So November 3rd. How many weeks is that from now? One. Oh shit! It's next week. Shit. I mean, the week after next. So yeah, I think honestly, I'm still thinking Joe's going to win this one because they shoving it down our mouths to go vote, and so I think a lot of people are voting this year, and so that's why I think Joe. That's why I think, unlike the 2016 election where a lot of people thought Hillary was going to win, and then out of nowhere, Trump won, and so boom, you can't really do much about that. But yeah, I think in 2 weeks, I think we will see a new president. You know what I'm saying? I will stream the live countdown and shit and all that too, because I want to see who is going to be the next president of the United States, because it's very tumultuous, how I say. Tumultuous, I was saying that right. But yeah, I think I'm done streaming for today. Go vote if you haven't already. Go register. I hope everybody in this fucking chat is registered to vote. You know what I'm saying? Jalen and Mario was the name. 2 niggas voting. Vote y'all niggas. Thank y'all for coming by. Thank y'all for speaking up. You know what I'm saying? Potted tonight in that nigga Jalen stream. Jalen's video. I'm gonna go follow you, Mari, after this. And yeah, I'm finna end this shit, and I'll catch y'all boys. Deuces. And light skinned women are the best women. I ain't gonna say that.